What's up gamers, Dreamcastguy here, talking today about the Resident Evil 3 Remake, because this game is coming out in just a couple days and I am extremely hyped for it. But with all the trailers we're getting and the big demos, there's one aspect of it that's still a little bit mysterious, which is that the developers have been talking about this newly introduced multiplayer mode that's just being called Resident Evil Resistance. This is going to be included completely for free inside of the game itself, even though it is very different. And since people are kind of curious as to what this frickin' is and how it's going to work, Capcom decided to release a beta test, which I've been playing this weekend, and I'm a little bit conflicted. There's parts of this that are stupendous, that really managed to kind of capture the heart and soul of Resident Evil, and there's parts of this that are flat out broken. So what I want to do is try and break it down and dive deep to see the best and worst parts of this beta. Let's start off by talking about how it works. So in Resident Evil Resistance, there's two separate teams. There's the survivors and there is a mastermind. Think of this as playing through a typical chapter of Resident Evil, but instead of having just your normal puzzles and monsters in your path, there's somebody deliberately putting them there. Let's start off by talking about what the survivors do. So when you're playing as survivor, there are multiple characters, each of which have their own special abilities, their own little talents that make them feel a little bit different. Things like one person can automatically track down nearby items. One person's able to do a thing where she sets down a healing aura, so everybody nearby her for 10 seconds can get automatically healed. And there's one guy who doesn't start with a gun, but instead has a huge baseball bat that allows him to do a lot more damage with melee. Each of them definitely plays different, but they're not exactly equal. Like, it's already pretty apparent that certain of these people are way stronger than others. There's definitely some balancing that needs to be done between the characters themselves. But when you pick one, then you're dropped onto the map, and the overall objective is to try and solve 3 separate puzzle rooms. When you get here, you're constantly trying to fight your way through rooms and rooms of zombies and monsters and freakish mutants, but the key here is to try and find these different puzzles. Each one is kind of the same thing, which is like finding clues, unlocking key cards, or at the very end, trying to destroy these 3 giant biocores. Once you manage to get past these 3 checkpoints and get to the final gate, you won the game. That is if you survive. The game currently, in this beta form, it's very difficult to win. I played about 25 games and I won in 2 of them. In every other one, I died a terrible death. This is difficult, and it really comes down to the fact that all 4 of the survivors need to be working together. You need to be able to calling out enemies, you need to constantly be tactical, and you need to try and work together to get past these puzzle doors. You cannot suck. This is a multiplayer mode that requires that you play at your best. But here's the thing, I like that this is actually kind of instilling the original Resident Evil spirit. My biggest concern when I was thinking about a Resident Evil multiplayer is that it would just be goofy, or that it wouldn't be scary. The fact that they're trying to make this just so jammed packed with co-op and versus, I kind of thought that it would be just a jumbled mess. But in a strange way, this still feels exactly like classic Resident Evil, except with obviously very good controls. The best part about this is definitely the fact that this uses the current systems that are established in the Resident Evil 3 Remake. You have the same aiming, you have the same inventory, and that sounds like a small thing. It's great. It is so good to have hotkeys and stuff when you're in these rooms, because the challenge you face is tumultuous. Let's talk about the Mastermind. So the other player, the 5th person in your lobby, plays as the bad guy, but what's interesting is you don't really see him, despite the fact that you get a chance to choose your Mastermind, and it seems like different Masterminds can have different monsters and stuff that they want to unleash. In the beta, we only had access to one, this weird like French-British guy. Obviously there's going to be things like Wesker and stuff probably in the full game, but in this beta, we had access to one Mastermind, but you don't see him. Instead, he's just like a picture on a screen because you are just the cameras. When you're playing as the Mastermind, to get around, you open up the map and click on any of the cameras in the current puzzle room. The area that they're currently locked in, you can go there, and it's your job to try and make their lives incredibly difficult. You are able to spawn monsters, you can turn your cameras into guns, and you can put traps. Things like landmines or a bear snare to try and grab people and slow them down. You can also, if you want, manually control zombies, transporting yourself into the body of one of these undead and being able to punch, kick, or grab, and kind of get a chance to try and hurt them. Which brings me to the biggest thing: there is a time limit. You can't just stand here all day long. Every time you get hit, there's a couple seconds off the clock, which means that this is sort of like your team health bar. Originally you start out with 5 minutes, but this dwindles relatively quick if you have a smart Mastermind. You need to constantly try and box people in, you need to try and ensnare them, and then you need to try and have them eaten by your giant cabal of the undead. Every time you manage to land a decent hit against these survivors, it takes a big chunk out of their remaining time. If you do well, you can even summon giant monsters like the Tyrant or Mr. X or people like this and then directly control them, running around and doing instant kills on those who are left. This brings me to the biggest criticism I definitely have for this game. Resident Evil Resistance in its current format incredibly favors the Mastermind. It is so easy. A lot of times I would kill people before they left the opening room because I could just continually throw out monster after monster after monster, and these players, they do have limited ammo. These people don't have infinite ammo, but I have infinite zombies. So eventually, if they don't solve the puzzles fast enough, they're absolutely going to die purely from fatigue. I'm going to be able to wear them down because I can just do this all day long. It seems like what they need to do is try and change the way that the Mastermind works fundamentally. Now, this is just my own guess, but what it seems like would try and balance things out is maybe if instead of making it where I can just make lickers and dogs and super zombies and people wearing body armor again and again, maybe give me a finite number. Maybe have it where, like, as a Mastermind, you can only make 20 zombies per area or something. Make it so that I am held back. Something that makes this extra easy when you're playing as the Mastermind is that I can see all the puzzle pieces. I know where the players are supposed to be going even before they figured it out. So a lot of times I can just stack a ton of landmines in a direct path so I can slow them down to a huge degree, or if they're bad players, they'll step on the landmines and die and instantly make it where I win. It just kind of creates a dynamic where the Mastermind is way too powerful, and if I manage to find that one bad player, I can usually target them, unlock my Tyrant very quickly because I've done so much damage, and now I'm running around the map killing all the good players. The balancing is definitely way off in its current state, but it's still fun. This is a mode that I think people are going to enjoy, and I'm curious how this is going to change as it comes out. There's obviously going to be more classes, more special abilities, and more Masterminds to try and mix up the general balancing and flow. The major issue with this, though, and the thing I think may end up killing Resident Evil Resistance relatively quickly when it comes out, is that the servers, even in their current state, they're not fantastic. And as somebody who is incredibly competitive and is always trying to be the best gamer I can be, it drove me nuts. There is so much lag. There is an insane degree of delay. There's crazy amounts of crashing. Lobbies will flat out not work. But the worst part is the fact that all the zombies and stuff, these people exist on the server, right? So it's trying to load the AI, the algorithms and stuff, and then send you that data. There are times when a zombie is trying to move and I shoot them in the head and I don't see that damage for sometimes a half second or a full second. Look at these times where I'm trying to shoot somebody and constantly it's like it's having to manually pull a calculator out of their desk, push in the numbers, and then press calculate to show the damage. There are times where you are being chased by a tyrant and you need that instantaneous response. If I am reacting quickly, I hope that the game can keep up, but let's face it, sometimes it flat out can't. Always online experiences can be so hit and miss because they're so heavily reliant on making sure that the game itself is able to be up and running and as fluid as it possibly can be. And each little lag spike completely ruined the fun I was having at that particular time. time. I can't be afraid of the game when suddenly I realize that this is all just a really crappy, tiny simulation that's just really kind of aggravated me. Fix the servers, up the bandwidth, and show me what all the heroes are going to be. I'm definitely going to be trying Resident Evil Resistance because it's just included inside of Resident Evil 3, which I'm definitely, of course, gotta buy. I will be doing a full review of Resident Evil 3 Remake when it drops, and I'm looking forward to doing it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh my gosh, it's so laggy. Lag is one of those things that it never stops being bad. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.